Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Heroes and Demons, which is episode 11 of season 1 of Star Trek Voyager. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Voyager one episode at a time. In this video I cover the first season episode of Heroes and Demons. So Heroes and Demons is the episode in which Harry Kim goes missing on the holodeck while B'Elanna is beaming some strange energy on board the Protos, this star or whatever. And so Chakotay and Tuvok go on the holodeck to look for Harry Kim, and the program he was running was Beowulf, and so they go to meet the Vikings there, and they go to fight Grendel, and then Chakotay and Tuvok then also go missing. And so they're worried that any organic being is susceptible to Grendel, which is some sort of matter energy transfer being. So they decide the only safe person who can go is the Doctor. And he's all excited for going on his first away mission and actually being a full member of the crew. And so he interacts with the Vikings, and it's kind of funny at first, and he kind of falls in love with Freya. They have a little romance thingy, but then this guy doesn't trust him and ends up trying to kill him, and Freya dies instead, and it's all sad. But then they figure out that the Grendel is actually an energy being that lives in the star, and the energy that they beam from the star were actually life forms, and so they took it as Voyager abducting their life, members of their species, and so they retaliate by abducting Chakotay, Harry Kim, and Tuvok. And so the Doctor goes to the holodeck with the life form and returns it as a sign of a gesture, good faith. And then the alien in return returns Tuvok, Chakotay, and Harry Kim, who is like, "Oh, what happened? Oh," and that's the episode. So. This is an episode this is one of those forgettable episodes, I think. I mean, it's not totally forgettable. Not like the next episode we'll get to, which I think I constantly forget exists or what happens in it. With this one, I remember it's the holodeck episode with the Doctor. But it doesn't, really, other than that information, the general idea of the episode, I always forget, exactly what happens. I think it was okay. It's nothing I remember for being terrible or anything. The thing I remember most about it was I bought this CD soundtrack in the 90s that had it was like the Star Trek 30th anniversary soundtrack, so it had music from all 4 shows, because it was before Enterprise came out. I believe it actually came out after season 2 of Voyager and after season 4 of DS9. And so they had music from the 4 different shows. I can't remember which episodes the original series did, but I know Next Generation, they had the Inner Light theme, which I talked about. They had the orchestral theme, which is very good. And DS9, they did The Visitor, which has an awesome soundtrack. But for Voyager, they chose this episode. And I always thought that was a weird choice. I always thought that was the wrong choice. Not that I hate the music. The music in this episode is fine, but it's more of adventure, sort of medieval, and I think Voyager's done better. I think maybe they intentionally included it because of that, and maybe, some people thought it was really good, but I think they would be better off doing an episode like The Trell, or I think even something like State of Flux or Prime Factors. I remember them having interesting music, or Caretaker. I'm sure if you want to do more adventure, Bases of Caretaker had very strong music. I don't know. I just didn't. I think the music was not terrible in this episode, but I think it was the wrong choice. So that's mainly when I think of this episode. I was like, oh yeah, the music I used to have that was very unremarkable. But or at least, why don't you just do music from several episodes? There's an idea. But anywho, so This is a Trapped in a Holodeck episode. I usually, if you're familiar with my channel, I usually come down harder on holodeck episodes, and particularly Trapped in the Holodeck episodes. Like, if there's can be holodeck episodes that I really love, like Ship in a Bottle. It was an amazing holodeck episode, and there's other ones that are okay. But that's not necessarily trapped in the holodeck, which they do technically become trapped, but it's more about Moriarty trying to get the one over them. It's not, but trapped in the holodeck, I mean, they go in the holodeck, the safeties malfunction, and the doors won't open, and they're stuck in the holodeck, and they have to run the program through in order to get out, and they could die at any time because the safeties malfunction. And so, to be fair, like, and this is why I don't totally hate this episode, is that this episode does skirt this cliche a little bit. It's not a flat out, like, unoriginal, like, Fistful of Data, which is totally unoriginal. Oh, trapped in a holodeck, and the safeties are malfunctioning, and Worf's going to be shot by an android. Ooh. Bullshit, or, you know, like The Big Goodbye started it, but it doesn't make it better. Or Elementary Dear Data was, yeah, I think the safety's malfunctions, so that counts. I've been on rants before why I hate the whole safety malfunctioning cliche, because it makes no fucking sense. The holodeck's supposed to be an entertainment machine. It's supposed to be like playing video games. Playing video games shouldn't be, you know, potentially fatal. Like, and this whole thing about safeties, like, there should be no safeties. Like, it should be built in. It should be impossible for the holodeck to harm, you know, human beings or people, and Starfleet, like any, you know, humanoid person. It should be built into the holodeck should be incapable of harming people. The whole thing that you have to have safeties and they could malfunction, in which case it could be deadly. That's like, then your entertainment machine is a death trap, and it happens so often because the writers, again, are, whenever they're lazy and they just want to do like a 20th century themed episode, and they're like, oh, let's have them go on a holodeck and get trapped there, and the safeties malfunction in order to create tension. And it's just lazy writing, and it pisses me off. Now, as I said, with this episode, it's not as bad. It didn't bother me as much because they do something a little bit original with it. Now, I don't think they ever confirm that the safeties are malfunctioning. I think they presume that could be the case, which is still kind of irritating because there shouldn't be any fucking safeties. It should be built in to the whole holodeck. It should be incapable of harming people. But anyway, they think the safeties might have been malfunctioning, so they're being careful. And they're not technically trapped in the holodeck. It's more of Harry Kim and Chakotay and Tuvok get, like, abducted by this alien because there's a misunderstanding with the alien, and they think that they're being hostile, and that whole plot is its own cliche. But that cliche doesn't bother me as much. You know, the misunderstanding with the alien energy beings, and they think we're at war with you. Like, that happens so much. But so it's a little bit different, and the main thing is because they use this as a reason to give the Doctor an adventure. And that, I think, is actually a unique sort of spin and a good way to have, because, you know, this is season 1 where the Doctor was barely developed, and he wasn't like a fully realized person. They're just starting to develop his character, and of course he doesn't have a mobile emitter at this stage, so he can't go on away missions or anything like that. So this is the best sort of way that they're reliant on him. He is becoming sort of the Data of and the Spock of the crew, where, like, oh, we can't, you know, do this, is be dangerous to humans, so let's have the Doctor do it. But But no, it was an original use of the Doctor, and I do think the way that they uncovered the mystery of the alien, photonic alien. And by the way, the use of photonic alien in this episode is actually much better than in Bride of Chaotica. The way they use photonic aliens in that episode just pisses me off. It's so just contrived, and it's just there for create a stupid episode. Like, that plot is the laziest plot, but I think that episode's actually fun and funny, so I give it a little bit of leeway. But yeah, it still irritates me. So yeah, so this is a better use of photonic aliens, a better use of the holodeck, trapped in a holodeck theme, I should say, because it's not really a trapped in a holodeck theme. So yeah, it's a bit original. We see the Doctor coping with identity, choosing a name, falling in love for the first time. See, I think I incorrectly stated before that life science was the first time the Doctor fell in love, which actually isn't true, because it's this episode. Life Science is the first episode the Doctor fell in love with an organic being and not another hologram. And this hologram, they never make the distinction in Voyager. They never outright say it. But there is a difference between the Doctor and these, any random holograms you have in the holodeck. Like, they're not sentient. And according, to TNG, they're not capable of becoming sentient. And it was so weird that Moriarty was. But they never really explained stuff like the Doctor, Vic Fontaine, and how they just so happened to be sentient. And it never called them out for being sentient. Well, of course, Voyager will drive this whole plot of whether or not he's sentient and what rights he deserves into the fucking ground in season 7. But at this stage, they didn't really address it. That he has, is he actually, alive? But they start treating him like such, and yeah. But you could argue that Freya and the other Viking things did that more like NPCs. That they're not really to his same level of sentience. And by the way, now that we're comparing episodes, this is much better than the fucking real life episode where he just creates a wife in the holodeck, and we're expected to have any emotional attachment to the characters when it was just the relationship was so fake and contrived. And that episode pisses me off because it tries to force feed this, really sad, tragic moment that it didn't in the least bit earn. And is just there as contrived. But anyway, I'll get to that when I get to real life. I know some people like that episode, and I think they're wrong to do so. But again, I'll get there when I get there. So this episode is better than that, is what I'm saying. So it's better than... Well, it's not better than Bride of Chaotica, but it has a better use of photonic being. And it's better than real life. And it's better than Fistful of Datas or all those other stupid trap and holodeck bullshit. So, I mean, it does have things going for it. But it is interesting that, and the reason why the romance between the Doctor and Freya works better in this episode than his, fake wife in real life is because they actually earned the relationship. You see them sort of getting smitten with each other and see them going together, and it's actually done very well. Not as well as Life Science, as I said. That's the better love story, but it was a little bit fast, but at least it felt more earned than something like real life. Which I didn't give a shit about those characters because they're NPCs. But anyway, these characters are NPCs too, but you get the more of the you can tell it's important to the Doctor, and that's interesting. Now, some of the humor in here I thought was a bit too silly, like the whole thing about them, like, oh yeah, the one moment I actually did find it funny. Someone described it as a Monty Python moment. I think that I'm not hugely familiar with Monty Python. I know the Holy Grail, but when some guy goes up to offer the Doctor mead, and the King's like, have some mead, and he's like, oh no thank you, I don't need any right now. So then the King just slaps it, knocks it on the ground. It's like, away with you. Like, this kind of yeah. So that was kind of funny. But the whole thing with when they're eating, and it's like, tell us the story of your conquest, and the Doctor's like telling the story about like this measles outbreak, and it's like, it's touch and go while he's eating. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hate it. It wasn't like actively annoying, but I didn't particularly find it funny either. And then some of the other jokes and how they always, this is such a cliche, such a typical format, the way they had to have that typical, guy who's jealous of the Doctor and didn't trust him. It's, they have one, like, so many episodes. There was like the Paradise Syndrome from the original series, where with the huge Native American stereotypes, and how one of them was like, oh, I hate Kirk or whatever. There's always a guy there, and he has to fuck things up, and then he ends up killing Freya. So that was very sort of formulaic, I think, is the way I describe it. Which, again, is why this episode doesn't, like, completely jump at me as, like, oh, this is an amazing episode. Oh, this is a great Doctor episode. I like the way it helps develop his character. And I think the way that they use the holodeck is better than the typical Trapped in the Holodeck episode. And I think the way they just, they assemble information is interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of the sort of whole, it's just an excuse to do Beowulf. and so a lot of that comes off as a little bit silly, the whole Beowulf thing. And as I said, even the main plot with the photonic alien, even though it's nowhere near as bad as what they did in Bride of Chaotica, it's still kind of very typical. Like, it's typical of, like, his imaginary friend did this, and whatchamacallit, Home Soil did this, whereas aliens that think that the Enterprise, or in this case Voyager, accidentally harms them, and they think, oh, you're at war with us, so we're going to fight back against you. Like, that is something cliche that Star Trek has used before, but and then it did dress it up differently, combined it with the holodeck, it gave the Doctor character stories, so yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was good. It was, again, nothing that really sticks out in my mind. Like, I do forget a lot of the details a lot, but I do remember, oh, it's that, Dr. Beowulf episode. But anyway, so I would now like to thank my Patreon supporters very much for supporting me on Patreon. Is very much appreciated. Does help me continue with the channel very muchly. I'd like to give a big special thanks to Antarius, Jordan Johnson, and Brandon Neal House. Thank you all so very, very much for your strong support. I'd also like to give a shout out to Tyler Cease, Benjamin Mead, Greg Marley, Francisco, Chuck Hooks, Kyrie091, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky, Matty Jester, Joel Valls, Alessandro Migalisio, Norman Buckwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, and Allison Fordyce. Thank you all so very, very much for your support. Alright, so I have a few Patreon comments for this episode. First comment is from Tyler Cease, who says, Introduction to the episode. This episode blends classic Star Trek themes with a touch of mythology and a unique take on the holodeck concept, making it an interesting mix of character development and action. The holodeck concept, I love the holodeck program because more than just a setting for fun or escapism, here it's used to explore the darker side of the character's psychological depths. Chakotay's role. Chakotay's experience with the Native American spirit guide adds a spiritual layer to this episode. It's an interesting look at his character and how the show weaves in cultural elements to find his personality. The mythology. The episode pulls from Beowulf, which is a clever way of tying in a well-known mythological tale to the Star Trek universe. Makes you think about how legends are adapted in the future. The moral question. One thing that stands out is the moral dilemma Chakotay faces in deciding how to resolve the issues inside the holodeck. It's a solid exploration of how technology intersects with personal values and decision making. The special effects, or the visual effects. The visual effects of the creature on the holodeck were pretty solid for its time, and it's clear that the episode was designed to showcase what the show could do with the technology available in the 90s. Critique or improvement. While the episode offers a lot in terms of concept, it feels like it might have benefited from more time developing the connection between the holodeck's antagonist and the crew, which sometimes feels rushed. Conclusion. Overall, Heroes and Demons is a fascinating episode that provides a good mix of philosophy, action, and a little mythology. While not a standout episode in Voyager's broader arc, it's still a fun and engaging watch. That's actually a really good point about the visual effects. I actually do think the visual effects on the aliens or Grindel was actually very good and does actually hold up pretty well. I don't think Chakotay's spiritual guide or whatever really played that much of a factor in this episode, though. But yeah, so in terms of developing the relationship between the aliens and the crew, I mean, I kind of feel like that's not entirely necessary because, I mean, it might have been nice, but that's not what the episode is about. It's obvious the episode is an excuse to do Beowulf, but even if I look at it sort of more on the bright side or give it the benefit of the doubt, the episode's more about the Doctor's character development and going on his first adventure. And the whole aliens thing is kind of just a framing device to allow that to happen. So yeah, I think it worked out fine the way it is. So next comment is from Ricky, who says, this was a decent episode for the Doctor. I really liked the use of him in this episode and that this was like the first main Doctor-centric episode, and to be perfectly honest, I prefer him in the earlier seasons than in the later seasons. For the earlier seasons, he was learning what it was to become a true member of the crew, and that the crew was finally starting to recognize him more and respect him more, whereas the later seasons, especially in season 7, he became the center of attention, and he was a huge egotistical asshole that no longer is a strong character. And I actually liked his quest in this episode, that he learned to fight, he learned how to establish dialogue and holograms, and even falling in love. So yeah, I grew to appreciate this episode, so my rating is an 8 out of 10. I probably wouldn't hold this episode as highly, but I do agree with you 100% on how the earlier Doctor is better than what they do with him in season 7. they do make him too much of an egotistical asshole, and they play too much in that trope. And yes, the show becomes his show. He becomes the main character, and it becomes all about him. They do absolutely overuse him. It's funny because in season 1 in particular, they underuse him. He was like he went from being the least important character to the most important character in 7 years. So this was a good use. I like that they took the time to focus on this character more, because they hadn't been focusing on him very much. So anyway, next comment is from Stephen Kennedy, who says, "My name is Schweitzer, James Schweitzer. This is the first and best holodeck episode that Voyager did. I always wondered why the Doctor never used this name going forward on Voyager, as Freya was just a holodeck character, but after seeing the scene I can understand why, as it was very sad indeed. I always loved the fantasy stuff, so you think I would have loved a Game of Crap? Well, I did for only the first 4 seasons. Tourists in Paris are in a few scenes together, like they will be in the episode Faces. Maybe that didn't continue beyond season 1. Well, I don't know, so Mark will answer the question, as I don't really give a crap. So my rating is 8. The Doctor's first away mission. He just beamed to another part of the ship. 1 small step for a hologram, 1 giant leap for a hologram kind. Out of 10. So, first the thing with Schweitzer. Yeah, I was very disappointed, and it is kind of frustrating seeing this episode and see that he chose a name, but then he doesn't have a name for the rest of the goddamn show, which is very frustrating. I ranted about this already, how it always irritates me that they never gave him a fucking name. But I actually understand why he didn't want to keep Schweitzer. And I actually think that makes the ending a bit more heartbreaking, a bit more touching. The fact is, like, no, last time I heard that name, it was painful, so I don't want to keep that name. Like, that's actually very powerful. You know, if I were to suggest a name, he should have been called Heisenberg. No, that's something else. Well, I think about it, because in both cases, someone comes up with the name of a historical figure that inspired them. But anyway, so that's what makes me think of that. As far as Paris and B'Elanna, sure, they work together as crew members in this episode, but there's nothing even hinting at chemistry or romance, whereas definitely Harry Kim and her had much bigger chemistry. Now, I will grant you Faces, which I'll get to next week. They did have more of interactions there, but that was just the human half of B'Elanna. But anyway, as I said, we'll get to that episode. But I still say that the whole thing was contrived and out of nowhere, and there was no build up to it. Except in, season 3 they started building up to it, but you could tell they were purposely building up to it. They had no chemistry before that, so that doesn't count. But anyway, sorry. Next comment is from Antarius, who says, Trapped in the holodeck. Safety's malfunctioning. Normally not the best ingredients for a good episode, but this one works as a great episode that explores the Doctor's character and is a big step in his character arc. Janeway's hairstyle is really unusual in this episode. I wonder, did she visit a holographic hair salon, or someone on board, or who on board is cutting her hair? Next week on Voyager, Neelix decides to wear his hair in a permanent wave. My rating is 8 out of 10. Yeah, I've been watching reviews and people are pointing out how Janeway's hair is all over the place. Oh my god, it's different. Oh, it's different. Honestly, I never noticed. Like, I noticed when her hair will change in season 4. But, like, I think the differences are too subtle from episode to episode in season 1. Like, I think subconsciously I might have noticed. Like, I think I know, like, I can picture in my head, like, how her hair looked. But it's nothing I really, really noticed or paid any attention to. So anyway, next comment is from Brandon Neal Howells, who says, I keep wanting to call this episode Heroes and Villains after the well-known Beach Boys song. I have loved the Beowulf story since I was in single figures, but this fails to move me. Maybe it's the character of the Shield Maiden who seems to dominate everyone else in the program, or maybe it's because it looks cheap or makes no sense at all. The first holodeck malfunction episode of many on Voyager. I do enjoy the Doctor's adventure, so we'll give this episode 7 magic mushrooms out of 10. I don't remember them mentioning magic mushrooms. mushrooms. That usually, I mean, were they talking about? They were talking about like eating these herbs that it was like, oh, it's very poisonous for you, but I didn't think those were magic mushrooms. Anyway, so yes, they make us strong. That was just weird, but yeah, I know I was never that big into the Beowulf story, to be honest. I mean, I studied it a little bit in school. I didn't really find it interesting. I saw that one CGI movie what's his face? Robert Zemeckis. I think that's his name. The dude that did Back to the Future. He did that CGI Beowulf movie, which is... I kept thinking about this episode the whole time. But, yeah, Beowulf has never been my thing. And, yeah. So, anyway, next comment is from Norman Buchwald. He says, so what does this episode and the next one, Cathexis, have in common? They feature center on a character in distress we hardly ever see, which, considering the treatment of both these characters in the entire series, was strangely prophetic. Not in how much we see, but how much characterization / growth, etc. It was like the writers did not know what to do with them. In this one, Harry Kim disappears, but we only see him for a second. And do we get much insight about Kim as a character and his interest in playing Beowulf? Not really. Then again, did it ever really make much sense Janeway wanted to be a governess? Another interesting aspect of this episode is that this introduces a concept where something outside alien is affecting the holodeck. There will be 2 more episodes that have this theme as well, and if I'm not mistaken, the alien influence happening on the holodeck may be uniquely Voyager. The 2 other episodes, by the way, are Alter Ego and Bride of Chaotica. As for the first Doctor episode, though this is actually a good one, and in future episodes it's amazing sometimes the Voyager crew did not remember and send the Doctor where he can't be affected. I mean, it took them a while to figure that out in the thaw. And why didn't they send him to the demon planet? Still, it's a good episode. He actually comes up with a name for the first time and even seems to experience love. All quite good, given that I still suspect this episode could have used another draft, as it still feels slightly uneven. It's probably Picardo who manages to transcend the flaws quite a bit. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, no, I agree actually with you that the script probably needed another pass. I don't think it's, like, as I said, it's not terrible, it's not too noticeable, but yeah, it does seem to be sort of lacking something. And yeah, thank you for naming the 2 episodes, because I couldn't for the life of me think of what the other episode was that had the aliens take over the holodeck or introduce aliens into the holodeck. Bride of Chaotica I remembered, but then Alter Ego, I mean, I didn't think of it as that term, because in the case of this episode and Bride of Chaotica, they're both photonic beings, and in Alter Ego that's not, it's a humanoid, but still it does classify as aliens using the holodeck to whatever. I just think that this and Bride of Chaotica are closer together than Alter Ego, and Alter Ego, of course, is fucking terrible. One of the worst episodes of the show. Don't even get me started on that. But yeah, the whole thing about Janeway being a governess never made any sense, but I'll talk about that in the next episode. That actually hadn't been introduced yet at this stage, but yeah, as I said, it's kind of a trope with the whole, let's have the Doctor be the one to save the day. I do feel like they use that a lot. Maybe it's not as much as they did with Data on TNT, but yeah, still. Anyway, thank you, patrons, so much for your comments. So my rating for Heroes and Demons out of 10 is going to be a 7. Very good. I think most of my Patreon supporters gave it an 8. I know Brandon also gave it a 7, Norman's 7.5, but there was a couple 8s at the start, and yeah, I don't like it that much. I think to me it's fine. Like it's fine. This usually 7s are, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's not like a 6 is like yeah, it's just barely good. Like it's okay. Like it's barely comes into the realm of being good. Where 7 is like, no, it's decent, not terrible, but not great. And 8 has something a little bit more special. It's like on its way to greatness, and I don't think that this episode doesn't reach that level to me. Yes, it's interesting that the Doctor is his first adventure, and they get character development for him, and the whole, Freya dying was actually tragic, and I think the way they handled the romance was actually lovely, and for develop the characters, as I said, unlike real life, but they actually earned the tragic death, unlike real life. But anyway, oh God, I'm gonna shit all over that episode when I get to. I fucking hate that episode. But anyway, sorry. So this episode is definitely better than some, but still, I agree with what Norman said about it needing another draft. It doesn't really have that oomph, and the main twist is kind of, as I said, it's a cliche that Star Trek has done tons of times before. Not maybe on the holodeck. I think Norman was right that the having the aliens use the holodeck to communicate or whatever, to interact, is more of a Voyager, exclusively a Voyager thing. But still, the whole thing about, alien energy beings we accidentally hurt them, and they mistake that as hostile, so they act hostile towards us. Like, that's something we've seen a billion times before. So, yeah, and these aliens weren't really fully developed. They were just there as an excuse to do a Beowulf story, which is fine. Like, I don't have a huge issue with that, but it means this episode's not great. So 7 out of 10. And as I said, it's kind of forgettable. I forget some of the details. And I'm sorry, there's some musical scores that were way better than this. This was the wrong choice to go on that soundtrack. I'm not going to let that go. That's always the first thing that comes to mind when I hear about this episode. But anyway, so that is it for my review of Heroes and Demons. So if you enjoyed this review and you want to help out the channel, you can do so by leaving a like, subscribing, commenting below. Let me know what you think about this episode. And if you really, really want to help out the channel, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. There's a link in the description below. There's different tiers and different rewards that come with it, such as you can leave comments for me to say in the videos. You can request a video for me to do. I have you get pre-releases of certain videos, and have a series of videos I do exclusively for Patreon supporters, where I revisit reviews that I've already done. So if you're interested in any of that, or just really want to support me, you can check out my Patreon page. Let's see what's coming up next on the old channel. So Thursday will be my review for Cathexis. And Saturday, I'll be doing a patron requested video, ranking the Q episodes outside of TNG. So all the Q episodes that were not in TNG. And then next Monday, I'll be reviewing the Deep Space Nine episode Explorers. So so that's what's coming up on my channel. Be sure to check it out as I continue to cover Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and many other videos on Star Trek and other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.